All right, so I think we're all pretty clear on the problem here. When you schedule a broadcast, it locks in the list of recipients at the time you're scheduling it. So if that broadcast doesn't go out for a few days, anyone new who meets the criteria for that broadcast will be excluded once the email goes out. So there's a solution to this, and it's pretty straightforward. So let's build a campaign instead, and of course, I want to emphasize that this is going to be a really simple campaign. I think people have a tendency to hear the word campaign and they think it's going to be overly complex, but this is not that. This is going to be really straightforward. So what we're going to do is basically initiate our campaign with the blog subscriber tag. So, let's say I'm sending out a blog update, like the email that probably drove you to this page. So you start your campaign by listening for whatever your tag is. So blog subscriber tag. And then obviously we need a sequence because the sequence is going to house the actions. So this will be my blog email sequence, right? Just like that. And in that sequence, we're going to go ahead and put one email. So I'm going to use a date timer. So like with a broadcast, you would schedule the date and time you want that email to go out. So we're going to do the same thing using a date timer. So let's go ahead and choose, let's say tomorrow, right? So November 16th at 8:15 a.m. in the contacts time zone. And then we'll pop in our email here. So blog update email. So there you have it. I would build that email out, include a link to my blog post, click draft to ready, and then go ahead and publish this. What's important about publishing a campaign with a tag goal is that it's going to go ahead and find people who have that tag and draw them into this campaign. So if anyone, I'm in my test application here, but if you had anyone who had that tag, it would automatically pull them in and they would immediately be scheduled up for that email, okay? Now the benefit to doing this is now that this is live, this goal is now listening. So in the future, anyone who gets this tag will achieve this goal and they will be added to this sequence as well. So that saves me a lot of time from having to go back and figure out who signed up after I scheduled but before the email went out, and did they get that email? Should they have gotten that email? How can I send it to just those people, right? All of those kind of niche scenarios that you may not have considered. This solves that because anyone who gets this tag moving forward will be added. And if they are added before 11:16 at 8:15 a.m. their time, they'll get this email. Now, everybody's going to hang out in this sequence, right? Anybody who's been added, anyone who has that tag, will live in this sequence. So what that means for me is the next time I need to send a broadcast update, I don't have to rebuild this whole thing, right? This campaign is just called broadcast, or even maybe a more appropriate name would be blog emails, right? Something like that. Blog emails. And the benefit, like I said, is new people will be added automatically, and it simplifies things for me moving forward. So if I have another email, the week later or a couple weeks later, another blog post, I just hop in here, I duplicate this, right? And this becomes blog update email 2. And I can just update that timer to, November 21st or whenever that next blog post goes live. Update the content of that and, go ahead and publish and then I'm off to the races. So what I've done here is just bypassed the broadcasting interface and I've kept it all in one campaign and sort of streamlined it to make my life a little bit easier from a scheduling perspective to make sure that new people are constantly being rolled in here. Okay, so here I am in my actual application, and I'm going to show you as I schedule up the email that is going to go out for this blog post. So I'm going to hop into my blog scheduling campaign, just like I had in my demo app with a couple of small changes. So here is that campaign right here. And you can see that I do have a 4-hour delay here. So if somebody opts in for my blog, I've got a different campaign that is going to send them a welcome email. So I didn't want them to get whatever the next email is immediately. So I put a 4-hour delay in here just to make sure that they have time to receive that welcome email. And then if they're still before that next scheduling window, they're going to receive that blog email. And that's actually another important distinction is I use the word window there intentionally because what I've actually done for each of these previous blog announcements is schedule them for a date range and a time range. So, for example, this email that we're about to set up, I'm going to duplicate this. And you can see I've got all my past 7 or 8 weeks here, and I clear those out periodically. But I'm going to schedule this for tomorrow, which is the 16th. And I don't want it to go out any later than, Saturday the 18th. So anyone who's in here at the time of publishing, it'll go out at no earlier than 11:16 at 7:15 a.m. Today's the 15th, so that it's already, past that time in Australia. So when I set this up, I like to include a range. So if anybody signs up and it's, on Friday, right, or on Saturday, they're going to get this post because it is recent enough, right? So I am scheduling a start time that I want it to be distributed, but I'm also scheduling kind of a window of relevance or recency so that if you sign up the day after or the next day or whatever, you're still going to receive my most recent post. So recurring live events, this one is going to be dynamic blog scheduling, and let's hop into that email. Now, to make this a little bit simpler, right, I keep pretty much the same structure for all of my emails, right? So I have the top blog up here. I've got some sort of intermediary call to action or secondary call to action here. And then down below, I have my, my recent blog posts, at least 3 of them, to make sure that people had an opportunity to see that. So all I really need to do is update, the image here. So let's go ahead and do that. And I think I have a dynamic. There we go. And you don't need to watch me modify this whole email. Okay, so this email is now ready. I've got my content up top. I set a new subject line here. I've got the new graphic for scheduling dynamic broadcasts. All the button links are updated as well. I do have a little call to action here in the middle, just notifying people that the OG membership rates are going up on November 22nd. And then I have my most recent 3 blog posts and, of course, my social links there at the bottom. So I can set this email as ready, and, you can see all the pieces are ready to publish here. And if I actually click publish on this, that email would start going out, right? You can see here on the current tab, there are 670 people queued in this sequence. The reason they're queued is because all of the timers in there are set to dates in the past, right? So the minute I publish the 2 items that are here, it'll realize, hey, we're within that date range. And, the people in Australia will get that email right away. And then obviously tomorrow morning, once that time range hits, people here in the States will start receiving it as well. And wherever you are in the world, it'll use the appropriate logic. So I can go ahead and click publish, but I'm going to pause just for a moment because I want to talk briefly about further segmentation that you could introduce here, right? So as you may have noticed, I kind of pointed out that there was a call to action about my OG membership in that email. Well, obviously I have 670 blog subscribers, but some of those people are already OG members. So I don't need to remind them that the price is going up. There's no need to encourage them to sign up because their rate's not going to change. They already know that this is happening and they know that they're locked in at their rate. So other than that being just kind of a subtle call to action for anyone who's watching this video and is considering the OG membership, it's also a very valuable learning lesson where you can use decision diamonds to further segment here. So what I'm going to do is actually just duplicate this, and I'll show you why here. So I'm going to hop into this new sequence and remove all of the old emails, okay? You don't have to because the dates are set to the past, but I'm just going to go ahead and delete those because we don't need those in there. And then I'm going to bring over these 2, and of course, I would set those as ready, and hop into this email and set this as ready also. So that's all good. That's all well and ready to go. But here's where it gets a little bit tricky. I'm going to rename this. This is my OG promo, right? And then I'm going to duplicate that one more time and pop that in here and say no OG promo. And then for this one, of course, I'll set it as ready also. But I can go ahead and remove that section in the middle talking about the price changing and then the membership, right? So I can go ahead and remove that because this email is going to go to my OG members. So I could just put something in here like, FYI, the OG pricing is going up on November 22nd. Your rate won't change, but if you know anyone who is considering the membership, this is the time to join. Okay, something like that. Or I could use a completely, separate call to action and kind of do it a different way. But let's just leave that for now. And we'll center that and move this to ready also. And then sequence to ready. And then, of course, we just set up a decision diamond to filter these people or the blog subscribers into one of these two sequences. So I'm going to use, my OG member tag for my rules, whether or not they have a specific tag. So if they go in here, if the contacts tags doesn't contain OG member, and you could do the same thing. This is how you would handle split testing, right? I use Zapier. If you haven't seen my Zapier blog post, you should check that out. But you can use plus this, or you can use My Fusion Helper. There's plenty of other ways to do split testing, but this is how you would handle it in the campaign builder. Now, if you don't have one of those tools, so this is the OG member tag. If you don't have one of those tools, I wouldn't sweat it. I wouldn't purchase those anything just for the purpose of split testing, because I have it on pretty good authority that Infusionsoft will be introducing some split testing options in Q1 of 2018. But what this allows me to do is take what was a mass communication piece to all of my blog subscribers and just get a little bit more targeted with what I'm saying there. So the offer that it happens to be in the middle of that blog email is only going to go to people who are not yet OG members, right? And of course, my OG members are going to see something totally different. So this is just a really convenient way to be a little bit more specific with how you communicate without doing a whole bunch of extra work. You saw it took me all of 2 or 3 minutes just to split those out and to quickly modify the content in this version of that email. Now, the last thing I'll point out is obviously they live in this sequence, or they live in one of these sequences indefinitely. And if you keep adding layers to it, if you keep adding new emails in there, then you could just keep running with that. But if they unsubscribe, they're not going to receive any more communication from that, but they're going to stay in that sequence. So what I did was I added an opt-out tag. So if they opt out, they achieve this goal, and it pulls them out of these sequences no matter where they are. All right, so a shout out to Mark Penny, who kind of asked this question and said, hey, I think you kind of forgot something. So the way I have it currently set up, once these emails process, my contacts will be in 2 separate sequences. So moving forward, I would have to continue to add emails in there or consolidate them back down into one. So let me show you how I plan to handle that. You definitely could put a new sequence in here and just consolidate this way and add your new emails in this area moving forward. But my plan is a little bit different, and I'll show you what that's all about. So I'm actually going to grab those 2 sequences and just move them up here for now, and then I will connect them to this new emails sequence and reconnect this to the opted out. So this way, tomorrow morning or whenever these emails process, right, depending on where these contacts are and what time zone they're in, all those contacts, once they finish this singular email, they'll flow back into this main email sequence. So I can actually go ahead and publish this right now because those emails are scheduled to go out, and then anyone, once they process, they'll just follow these tracks into this one where they'll hang out. And then moving forward, I'm back to where I was before that change was made. So before I branched them out, it just kind of gets me back to square one. And my process for the next email is the same unless I need to branch them out again. So that's how I would handle that. Thank you, Mark, for the question. So that's how I've handled this. That should explain for many of you how you got to this blog post, and hopefully there's some valuable information there that you can use for scheduling your broadcast in the future to a dynamic audience rather than a static one. Let me know if you have any questions, or if you appreciated this, give me a comment below the video. Later.